Hi, I'm Irene. I work 2 jobs, pulling double shifts as a waitress just to keep my sister from sinking. But then she came into my workplace, stood there in front of a full restaurant, and called me a lowlife, like I was nothing. Then she turned and walked out without a second thought. I believed that moment would be the worst of it. But it wasn't. What followed felt heavier. The lies, the guilt, the quiet way my own parents chose her side without ever saying it outright. What do you do when the people you love stop seeing you as a daughter and start treating you like something they can use? Some people carry their families in their wallets, in photos, in emergency contacts saved on their phones. I carry mine in my body, in the way my shoulders slump without me noticing, in the exhaustion that never quite leaves no matter how much I sleep. It was around 6:30 in the evening, and I was wiping down the counter before the dinner rush began. The overhead lights hummed softly, and the smell of marinara clung to everything. I had been working doubles all week, covering for a coworker who quit without notice. My manager didn't even really look at me anymore. He would just toss me a rag and mutter, "You're a lifesaver." I'm not. I'm just a woman in her 30s who learned too early that when people start drowning, they grab whatever is closest to stay afloat. And somehow that was always me. Growing up in Sacramento, my parents kept up the appearance of a peaceful home. White shutters, trimmed lawn, everything neat from the outside. But inside, it was always about who shined brighter. My sister Kala always had the spotlight. My mom used to say she had star quality, whatever that meant. My dad called her his little diamond. Me, I was the steady one, the helper, the one who fixed things. At first, I wore that role proudly. Who wouldn't want to be dependable? But over time, I started to see the pattern. Kala never had to do much of anything unless it involved pointing at someone else to handle it, and that someone was almost always me. A few weeks ago, my mom called during a short break between my shifts. I was sitting in my car with the engine off, my sandwich still untouched in my lap. "Honey," she began softly, the way she always did when she needed something. "Your sister's going through a rough time right now. I was wondering if you could help with her rent, just until she's back on her feet." I didn't answer right away. I stared at the crack in my windshield, the one I couldn't afford to fix. "She's your sister," my mom added, like that explained everything. Family helps each other. My dad didn't speak, but I knew he was there. I could almost picture him nodding quietly, backing her up without saying a word. That was always how it worked. They didn't need to say much. The weight just rolled downhill, and I was always the one catching it. So I said yes. I always say yes. The next day, I checked my credit card statement. Something felt off, like a small warning I couldn't ignore. That's when I saw it. 2 charges, nearly $900 total. One from a boutique downtown, the other from some online cosmetics brand I had never even heard of. My chest tightened. I already knew. When I called Kala, she answered like everything was perfectly normal. "Oh, don't be dramatic," she laughed. "I needed a few things. You're the one with the job, right?" I stayed quiet. "You always said you'd be there for me," she added quickly. "And it's just this once, I swear. Don't make it a big deal. Just this once." It's funny how those words always come from people who make a habit of taking. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, at the same water stain from last winter that hadn't been fixed. I thought about the culinary program at the community college. I had looked into it months ago, bookmarked it, even saved enough for the first semester. That money was gone now. And still, I didn't call her back. I didn't demand anything. I didn't even tell my parents. I just kept going. The next morning, I poured black coffee into a chipped mug, put on my uniform, and walked out the door like everything was fine, like nothing inside me had cracked. Because in this family, silence is survival, and survival is expected. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding, not from fear, but from the slow realization that they were never going to stop asking. That feeling didn't fade the next day. It stayed with me, clinging like smoke. Every message from my mom felt heavier. Every time my phone rang, my stomach turned. I stopped checking my balance. I already knew what it would show me. That Saturday night, the restaurant was packed. Music playing, glasses clinking, plates moving nonstop. It should have been a good night for tips, if my mind wasn't somewhere else entirely. I kept moving, table to table. Orders, refills, polite smiles. One table kept asking for breadsticks. Another tried to flirt. I barely noticed. All I could think about was the math running through my head. Rent, gas, Kala's expenses, groceries, that late-night pharmacy run I hadn't planned for. By 7:45, the place was buzzing. I had just cleared a table near the back when I heard her voice. That's my sister, believe it or not. I didn't need to turn around. I already knew it was Kala. She was sitting with two people I didn't recognize, dressed up, full makeup, hair styled like she was attending something important. The people with her laughed like she was someone special. I stayed behind the partition, hoping someone else would take the table. No such luck. Table 15 is asking for you, Jessa said, glancing at me. They said your family. My heart started pounding. I walked toward them slowly. Kala smiled brightly. There she is. Isn't she adorable in her little apron? You guys, this is my sister Irene. She owns this place. She laughed before correcting herself. Just kidding, she works here. I froze for a second. Her voice was loud enough that nearby tables turned to look. Marco glanced over. I forced a smile and focused on my notepad. May I take your order? Kala leaned forward, resting her elbow on the table. You still working nights? I thought you'd have moved up by now. One of her friends laughed awkwardly. She swirled her drink. I mean, really, you're okay being everyone's servant? I could never. Some of us have bigger plans. The words didn't hit like a punch. They sank deeper than that. Cold. Permanent. I looked at her, really looked. Then she leaned closer, adjusting her hair like she was fixing something, and whispered just for me. You're just a low-life waitress, Irene. That's all you'll ever be. I didn't react. I didn't say a word. I turned and walked away without taking their order. Marco came up to me almost immediately. You okay? I need my break, I said, before he could ask anything else. In the kitchen, I sat down on a crate near the storage shelves. My apron felt unbearably heavy. I wiped my hands on my jeans, but it didn't help. My throat tightened, but I refused to cry. Not here. Jessa came in with a cup of water. Are you all right? I nodded automatically. Just got a little dizzy. She didn't push. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I avoided that table completely. Someone else handled it. Kala didn't stop me when she left. No goodbye, no acknowledgement, just the sound of her heels against the floor fading away like nothing had happened. I got off after midnight. The air outside was finally cool. I walked home instead of taking a ride. I needed the quiet. Her words kept repeating in my head. Low-life waitress. At home, I didn't cry. I didn't pour a drink. I didn't call anyone. I changed into pajamas, sat on the edge of my bed, and stared at the floor. The clock passed 1:30, and somewhere inside me, something broke. Quietly. No drama. Just a realization. I couldn't keep letting her treat me like this. And somehow I knew this wasn't the worst she could do. It was only the beginning. The next morning felt slow, like a bruise forming under the skin. I made my coffee and stood by the window, watching someone walk their dog. It was Sunday. A day meant for rest, for soft moments, for things I didn't have. My phone lit up. Messages from Kala. Cheerful, casual, like nothing had happened. Hey, want to come over later? I found that movie we used to love. No apology. Nothing. Just more of the same. 3 days later, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off a box of summer clothes they had asked for. I didn't plan on staying. The air there always felt heavier somehow. As I set the box down, I heard their voices from the kitchen. My mom sounded tired. My dad, calm, steady, familiar. It's not like the last time we paid her credit card bill, my dad said. Irene never found out, and it helped Kala get through that rough patch. I froze. The box slipped slightly in my hands. Never found out. That rough patch. That had been the semester Kala went to Paris. I thought she had earned it. I thought she had saved up. I even sent her money, proud of her. But now, it had all been covered behind my back, and they never told me. I left without saying anything. Didn't knock, didn't wait. I just walked out while their voices echoed behind me like something I was never meant to hear. The next afternoon, I met Camille for lunch near her office. We hadn't seen each other in a while, which wasn't normal for us. She was usually the one who showed up when I needed someone. But something felt different. She was kind but distant. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. She talked about small things, avoiding anything real. Halfway through her meal, she set her fork down. Irene, can I ask you something? I nodded. Did you know Kala borrowed money from me? I blinked. What, she said? It was just a short-term thing, emergency rent. I figured you were helping, so she must be good for it. I sent her $400. That was 2 months ago. My mouth went dry. I hadn't known. Of course I hadn't. She ghosted me after that, Camille continued. Didn't respond to messages. I didn't want to bring it up, but I think she used me. And I think she used your name to do it. I wanted to say something, anything, but all that came out was, I'm sorry. She smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was resigned. I know it's not your fault, she said gently, but I think I need a little space. That sentence hit harder than I expected. I nodded, even as the pit in my stomach grew. She paid for her half of the meal and stood up. I'll text you later this month, maybe. I watched her leave through the front window, her purse slung casually over her shoulder. The way people walk when they're no longer carrying part of your world. That night, I sat in bed scrolling through social media. Kala had posted a story of her laughing at a rooftop bar, champagne in hand, captioned, "Brunch queens do it better." She didn't look guilty, didn't even look aware. I wondered how someone could cause so much harm and still sleep like a baby. How could she smile like that when everything she touched left someone else hurting? I closed the app. My hands were shaking. And then, without even thinking, I deleted it. All of it. Instagram, Facebook, even the messaging threads with her name. Silence flooded in. I walked to my desk, pulled out an old notebook I hadn't touched in years, and opened to a blank page. I started writing. Not to vent, not to accuse, but to track, line by line, every payment, every favor, every lie. Not for revenge, for clarity, for me. I didn't need apologies anymore. I needed boundaries, and this time, I was going to draw them. It started with a phone call at 10:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was folding laundry, a podcast humming in the background, when the screen lit up with an unfamiliar number. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something instinct, maybe, made me swipe. Hello? A man's voice answered, professional, detached. Hi, this is Mr. Chen. I'm Kala's landlord. I just wanted to follow up on the rent. Your payment didn't go through for this month. Should I send the invoice again to your email? I blinked. My what? He hesitated. Kala said you usually handle it. She gave me your number in case there were any issues. My fingers tightened around the phone. I never agreed to pay her rent, I said slowly. Please remove my number from your records. There was a pause. Oh, I see. I'll speak to Kala. I hung up without saying goodbye. My breath was shallow. My heart, not racing, boiling. It wasn't just about the money. It was the gall, the entitlement, the way she kept handing out pieces of my life like they were hers to give. I sat down on the edge of my bed, phone still in my hand, and stared at the floor like it had answers. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then I typed out the message. If you ever give my name or number to someone regarding your finances again, I'll involve the police. This isn't a joke. I'm done. I hit send. No emojis, no love you anyway, no explanation. 2 minutes later, she replied, Chill, it's just rent. You always overreact. I tossed the phone onto the couch like it had burned me. Maybe I did overreact, for years, and maybe now I was finally reacting just enough. That Friday, Aunt Vivian invited me over for dinner. Her voice was warm, the kind that made you exhale without realizing you'd been holding your breath. Just us, she said. No expectation, come hungry. I brought a small dessert. I didn't bake, but pretended I had. It didn't matter. She smiled like I'd brought her gold. We ate chicken piccata with roasted potatoes and lemony greens. She poured me a glass of wine and sat across the table, eyes kind but searching. I've been meaning to say something, she began. I know your parents lean on you a lot. I swallowed hard, nodding. She continued. It's not fair. They raised 2 daughters, but only one was ever expected to hold the roof up. My throat tightened. I looked down, blinking fast. She reached across the table, touched my hand. You don't have to keep doing it. You're allowed to say no. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. No one had ever said it so plainly. Not with love, not with permission. Then the phone rang. It was my mother. Vivian sighed, already knowing. I picked up only because I didn't want to lie later. Are you talking about us, Mom? Said, her voice cool. Vivian's always been good at stirring the pot. "Mom, we're just having dinner." She cut me off. "Don't forget who helped you pay your first month's rent, Irene. Don't let people fill your head with." Vivian took the phone from me calmly, gracefully, and said, "Maybe if you raised both daughters equally, Irene wouldn't have to keep cleaning up your mess." She ended the call without another word. My jaw went slack. "You didn't have to." "I did," she said, pouring another glass. "Because no one else ever has." After dinner, I helped wash dishes. The silence between us was soft, not awkward. She handed me a towel and said, "You're stronger than you think, but strong doesn't mean silent." I went home just before 10. The streets were quiet, headlights in against damp asphalt. When I reached my apartment, I didn't turn on the TV or check my phone. I sat at the kitchen table and opened the same notebook from the other night. And this time, instead of listing debts, I made a new list. Boundaries. I won't answer money requests. I won't defend someone who won't defend me. I won't explain my choices to people who only listen to judge. I won't play the villain in someone else's fantasy. I closed the notebook, leaned back, and whispered out loud, "I've said yes my whole life. Maybe it's time they hear a no. And if they didn't like what came next, that was their problem, not mine." I went to bed that night with a strange stillness in my chest. No shaking hands, no lump in my throat. Just silence. The kind that fills a room after a door has been closed for good. But that peace lasted less than 36 hours. I woke up Thursday morning to a message that twisted my stomach before I even unlocked the screen. "I'm sorry if I've been awful. I don't want to be here anymore." It was from Kala. No punctuation, no follow-up, just that. I shot upright, heart slamming against my ribs. The room suddenly felt cold, despite the spring sun pouring through the window. I dialed her number, straight to voicemail. I called again, then again. Each ring felt heavier than the last. No answer. I threw on a sweatshirt and shoes without socks, grabbed my keys, flew down the stairs. Phone clutched like a lifeline. I didn't know where I was going. I just couldn't sit still, couldn't do nothing. I drove, no destination, just motion. I stopped at red lights without remembering how I got there. When I finally pulled over at a gas station, I called her again. Nothing. 30 minutes later, as I sat frozen in the driver's seat, my phone buzzed. "Relax, I was just in a dark place. Thanks for caring, though." I stared at the screen. She knew. She knew exactly what to say to send me spiraling. And worse, she knew I'd come running. Not because I'm weak, but because I'm human. And she'd always treated my empathy like a lever she could pull any time she needed something. I didn't text back. Instead, I drove home in silence.
The only sound was the occasional creak of my tires over pavement. The weather had shifted, sunlight dulled by clouds. That evening, I folded laundry while my phone vibrated again. This time it was my mother. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "Irene, I don't understand how you could abandon your sister when she's clearly suffering. You used to be kind. What happened to you?" An hour later, another call, this one from Dad. His voice was heavier, slower. "You're not being yourself, sweetheart. That's not how we raised you. Family comes first, always." I put the phone face down on the table and sat beside it, like it might explode. What do you say to people who only love the version of you that breaks herself to feed them? I tried writing it out, what I was feeling, but the words felt too polite, too filtered. So I opened my voice memo app and hit record. "They don't love me. They love what I do for them," I said softly, almost afraid to hear it out loud. "And now that I've stopped, they don't know what to do with me." I didn't cry, not this time. Instead, I turned off notifications for 48 hours. I ignored every call, every ding, every desperate emoji. And like clockwork, the tone shifted. Cal's next message was colder. "So I guess you've decided you're better than all of us now. Good to know." Then another. I shouldn't have expected anything from someone who hides behind boundaries to justify being selfish. There it was, the final trick in the guilt playbook, turning blame into a weapon. But this time it didn't land. On Sunday morning, I sat at the kitchen table, the same spot where I'd once listed boundaries, and I added one more. I won't be manipulated by fear, guilt, or shame. I opened a new message thread, group text, just family. I typed slowly, carefully, without rage, without apology. Effective immediately, I am no longer financially responsible for Kala. I will not respond to future requests or third-party pressure. I need space. I need peace. I hope you'll respect that. I read it twice, then hit send. The message went out at 9:04 a.m. I set the phone down, walked to the window, and pulled open the blinds. The sky was clearing, sunlight spilling through clouds, like breath after holding it too long. My hands still trembled, but my breath steady. What I didn't know then was how far they'd go to break that peace. 3 mornings passed with no calls, no texts, no knocks. I started to think maybe the silence would hold. Maybe this time they'd heard me. Then, on a quiet Thursday afternoon, while I was walking home from a shift at the cafe, Jessa waved at me from across the street. She looked unusually hesitant, almost sheepish. "Hey," she called out as we neared the corner. "Weird question, but wasn't that vintage watch yours? The silver one? I swear I saw it on resale loop yesterday." My steps slowed. "What do you mean?" She pulled out her phone, scrolled, then turned the screen toward me. There it was, the vintage silver timepiece I'd spent 4 months saving for. The one I gave Kala on her birthday. The one she cried over, swore she'd keep forever. The tiny inscription still visible in the photo. "For every second you dreamed out loud, love Irene." The ad was simple. No sentiment, no story. Used but elegant, $225 OBO. My stomach dropped. The world didn't tilt, it tightened. I didn't say anything to Jessa, just thanked her, and walked away. I wasn't even mad, not in the hot yelling way. It was colder than that. She hadn't just taken money. She sold the only thing I gave her from the deepest part of me. She didn't sell the watch, she sold my love. That night it rained in Sacramento. The soft kind that only hits your windows, not your roof. I made a simple dinner, nothing fancy. Ate alone. Was halfway through washing the dishes when I heard it. Banging. 3 sharp knocks on the front door. Then another 2, faster. I froze. Dish still in hand. I walked quietly toward the peephole. It was Kala. She stood in a white coat, makeup smeared, just enough to suggest chaos, but not enough to hide the designer dress beneath it. "Irene," she shouted, "open the door." I didn't move. "I know you're home. I saw your light come on." I slipped the chain lock across and opened the door just a few inches. "What do you want?" I asked her. Her eyes flared. "I need a place to crash, just for a couple nights. I got kicked out." My voice stayed low. "You still have that coat in a Louis Vuitton bag. God, is this about appearances now? You think I'm not struggling just because I don't look like it?" I didn't answer. She pressed harder. "You need to let me in. You're my sister. I have nowhere else." I shook my head. "You made this bed, Kala. Don't act shocked." "It's cold," her voice sharpened. "You're seriously going to turn me away? You're so heartless. What kind of sister does that?" I leaned forward, just enough for her to hear me clearly. The kind who finally learned how to survive. Then I closed the door. Her voice rose on the other side. Something about abandonment, betrayal, but it was muffled now, like yelling from inside a dream. I sat down on the couch. My hands trembled, but they didn't move toward the door. I didn't chase, didn't explain. Later that night, the text started. "You'll regret this. You're acting like you're better than everyone. Don't forget who helped you when you were nothing." That one hit a nerve, but not for the reason she thought. Because I wasn't nothing. I'd never been. I just wasn't hers to use anymore. I typed one line. No punctuation. "I've never been nothing, just invisible to you." Then I blocked the number. I didn't sleep much, but I didn't cry either. In the morning, I changed the locks. The guy from the hardware store did it quickly, no questions. $58, 20 minutes, and a small shake of his head when I handed him the old chain lock. When he left, I stood in the doorway and looked around. The apartment was quiet. My space, my rules. "This place is small," I said aloud, "but it's mine." I walked to the window, opened it, and let the breeze move through the room. For the first time, I whispered,
"It's safe, but I underestimated how far someone will go when they realize they've lost control." The first ping came during my lunch break at the restaurant. I was sitting in the back office, biting into a cold sandwich, when Jessa burst in, phone in hand. "Have you seen this?" she asked, eyes wide. I wiped my hands on a napkin. "Seen what?" She handed me the phone without another word. The screen lit up with an anonymous Instagram post. "Imagine being abandoned by your own sister while struggling with depression. I had to sleep in my car while she blocked my number. I still love her, but she made me feel like nothing." Below the text was a blurred photo of what looked like the front steps of my apartment building. The caption ended with a heart emoji. I scrolled. Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments. "You're so brave. She'll regret it one day. Blood doesn't mean anything to some people. Praying for you, whoever you are." But I knew who it was. No name, no what handle to trace, but I knew Kala. Jessa hovered. I didn't want to assume, but it kind of sounded personal. I nodded, feeling a cold flush spread through my chest. "It is." Back out on the floor. The shift moved like molasses. One customer I used to serve every Thursday wouldn't meet my eyes. Another, a woman who always asked for me, requested someone else. Whispers trailed behind me like steam rising off a hot plate, and when I finally checked my phone again at closing, the DMs had started rolling in. You could have saved her life. You're a monster. Some people don't deserve family. I didn't reply to anyone. I went home that night with my jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. I sat at my kitchen table, stared at the dim light flickering through the blinds, and tried to steady my hands. What did I expect? That Calla would give up quietly? That setting boundaries would be enough? She didn't want distance. She wanted war. But this time, I wasn't going to crawl into silence. I opened my notes app and wrote, "There's a difference between helping and being used. I chose to live, and no one gets to shame me for that." I read it 3 times. No edits, no filter. Then I posted it on my own page with my own name and let the world read it how they wanted. The first comments trickled in, a few vague subtweets from cousins I hadn't heard from in months. But then something shifted. Aunt Vivian replied, "You did the right thing. Don't let their noise drown your truth." Another message came from Camille. "I saw the post. I'm proud of you. And I'm still here." My shoulders loosened just a little. That night, the wind picked up again outside. Rain tapping faintly at the window like it was trying to be gentle with me for once. I was mid-dishwashing when my phone lit up again. "Calla, so now you want a public pity war?" I stared at the screen, took a breath, typed back. "You fired the first shot. I just stopped running." I didn't wait for a reply. I powered off my phone, wiped my hands dry, and leaned against the tonner. No more hiding, no more guilt blankets wrapped in apology. Because if this was war, I was finally ready to win on my terms. Winning, it turned out, didn't come with applause. It came with silence. After my post, the social storm quieted, but not in a way that felt victorious, just still, like everyone had taken a collective breath and chosen not to exhale around me. A few friends didn't reply to my texts anymore. Camille, Canel, our usual brunch, no explanation. Even my manager, who used to greet me every shift with a smile and a joke, cut my hours without a word. "It's just scheduling," she said, but I saw the way she looked at me now, like I carried something contagious. It was Calla's real gift. Not the drama, not the insults, the aftermath, the erosion. She'd always been good at leaving scars where no one could see them. I spent most of that week inside, curtains drawn halfway, meals kept simple, phone notifications off. But the quiet, it wasn't crushing this time. It was preparation. Then came Aunt Vivian's call on Saturday morning. "We're doing a small cookout, family only," she said, her voice light. "You don't have to come, but you deserve to show your face." I hesitated. "People will stare," I said. She didn't argue, then stare back. "You don't hide from shame you didn't earn." Sunday afternoon came faster than expected. I put on a soft sweater, jeans that fit just right, and pulled my hair into a low knot. Nothing fancy, just clean and confident. The house was already buzzing when I arrived. Lawn chairs dotted the grass, smoke curled from the grill, laughter floated over from the porch. But it quieted as I stepped into view. I spotted her immediately. Calla perched on the patio edge like a queen on a throne. Nobody offered, legs crossed, drink in hand. Her eyes found me, cold, unblinking. My mother stood beside her, jaw tight. My father sipping lemonade, avoiding eye contact like it might bite him. I nodded at Aunt Vivian, who smiled softly. Brave, I thought. Her, not me. Then it happened. Calla's voice rang out, just loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Even now, she's the victim. She always wanted people to pity her. The words hung in the air like wet laundry, heavy and humiliating. I didn't flinch. I walked toward her, each step measured, the grass crunching under my shoes like it knew something sacred was ending. When I reached her, I didn't raise my voice, didn't point a finger. I just looked at her and said, "No. I just wanted to stop bleeding for someone who wouldn't even say thank you."
The yard stilled. A cousin near the grill clapped once, twice, then stopped. No one else moved. I turned to Miriam, who stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Then to Ronald, who shifted his weight and looked past me. "I won't keep giving you a daughter to sacrifice," I said quietly. "Not anymore." And I walked away, back to my car, back to my life. No one called after me. No one followed. The sun was lower when I got home, streaking amber across the floorboards. I kicked off my shoes, poured a glass of water, and sat on the couch. My phone sat silent. No buzzing, no guilt trip voicemails, no please come back from anyone. Just me. And in that space, for the first time in years, I felt something like peace. It didn't come wrapped in a happy ending, but it felt earned. Not all battles end with forgiveness. Some end with freedom. The first few days afterward felt like walking barefoot on new hardwood, quiet, unfamiliar, but solid.
I didn't hear from my parents, not once. No checking in, no guilt-laced prayers or scripture quotes. The air around me had thinned out, and strangely, I could breathe better in it. One night, about a month after the cookout, I sat at my little two-person table, eating reheated soup and a slice of buttered toast. The apartment hummed with the dull of the fridge. Outside, someone was walking their dog, its collar tags jingling faintly through the window. No one had texted me all day. I smiled. At first, the silence had felt like punishment. Now, it sounded like music. The next morning, I rode the city bus to the community college I'd once only daydreamed about. It was gray outside, the kind of weather that made Sacramento look soft around the edges. I stepped into the student services office and waited behind a young man with earbuds in and a mother wrangling a toddler. When it was my turn, the woman at the desk smiled politely. "Program, culinary arts," I said. "Night or weekend courses?" "Night," I replied, then added, "I work full-time." She nodded, typing something. "Do you have an emergency contact?" I hesitated. There was a time I would have said Kala without thinking, or my parents, even after everything. But now, "No one," I said gently. "Just me." She didn't flinch, just wrote it down. I paid the deposit with the same Kala used to drain for shopping trips. It felt poetic. When I left the building, my receipt tucked into my coat pocket, I looked up at the sky. It wasn't sunny, it wasn't raining, just somewhere in between. That night, as I settled into bed with a book, my phone buzzed, one notification. A long message from Kala. It started with, "I was awful, I know that now." She wrote about missing me, about going through a lot, about maybe meeting someday, just to talk. I read it once, then again, and for the first time I didn't feel anger or pity, just space between us. I didn't reply. I hovered over the delete button, then pressed it. Healing, I'd come to learn, isn't always a homecoming. Sometimes it's a quiet goodbye. The next morning I opened my kitchen window. A cool breeze drifted in, bringing with it a faint smell of wet pavement and cut grass. I pulled out my old dog-eared cookbook, the one I'd marked with sticky notes years ago, and tucked away thinking it was a someday thing. I flipped to a page with a simple chicken and rosemary dish. Comfort food, my kind. I gathered the ingredients, washed my hands, lit the burner. As the oil hissed softly in the pan, I whispered, "This time I cook for me." And I meant it. I didn't win. I just stopped losing. And for once, that was enough. You know, for a long time I thought love meant saying yes. That loyalty was proven by how much of yourself you were willing to lose for someone else. But I've learned something I wish I'd known sooner. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop. Stop enabling, stop explaining, stop shrinking to fit inside someone else's expectations. I didn't walk away because I hated them. I walked away because I finally chose me. If you're watching this and you've been carrying more than your share for too long, maybe it's time to ask yourself, at what cost? Who's taking your energy while calling it love? And what would it look like to protect your peace, even if it means being misunderstood? You don't have to wait for rock bottom to reclaim your life. Sometimes healing doesn't come from reconciliation, it comes from release. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family or walk away entirely? What part of this story hit home for you the most? Drop a 1 in the comments if this story touched your heart, or just let me know where you're watching from. And hey, if this didn't speak to you, that's okay too. Tell me why. I'd love to hear your story too. And if you want more real stories like this, raw, honest, and human, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter. Thanks for being here. Until next time.